So it's working. We are going to continue with the enterprise offerings of Atlassian. Atlassian is actually a company with about 40,000 customers. 5,000 of them are enterprise customers, according to the definitions of Atlassian, that are customers with more than 1,000 users. And I think last year, Atlassian started a complete change of their enterprise offerings for the enterprise customers. And what they introduced are actually two major things: special features for their software, for their major software, Jira, Confluence, and Stash, and of course also for the plugins that are working with them, with some high availability and scalability features, and also additional services. These are Premier Support and Technical Account Management. You'll see what this in the next slides. And at the end, the second half of the session, we'll take a closer look to the Stash Data Center. That is one particular product. What is its advantages, features, a little bit insight in the architectures and the coming features. So, again, software, the Data Center Edition, the Premier Support, Technical Account Management, and of course the Atlassian experts who support you to implement these features. Let's jump in. What is Data Center? Data Center is just an add-on on the existing software base, with additional high availability and scalability features. If we take a look on the different deployments of Atlassian products, we see that there is the cloud solution, the one from Atlassian. It's a shared instance, actually, a single one shared with many customers, or other cloud offerings, like ours, for example, where you have, again, one single instance dedicated for you. Then you have the option with the server deployment, this single instance running on your own server. And additionally, is the new offering, Data Center, where you have the same product running on many different servers, something called cluster. And this gives the enterprise customers the possibility for lower downtimes, very important, especially if it's a customer with many branches in different time zones. You cannot just restart your Jira or Confluence in the night, because in some different time zone it will be the day. And if the applications are getting mission critical, then it's a problem. So, what are the features? First, high availability. What does it mean? If more than one instance is running at the same time, of course it can fail, or you can upgrade the node or whatever, but the service is still available. And if you design your cluster properly, what we assume that Atlassian did, you have also performance impact. The queries or the requests from the browsers and so on, they are distributed, so you can get better performance. And derived from this feature, you can get also instant scalability. That means if you need more load, just add additional nodes, put them into the cluster, and it just works. So, how is the high availability implemented? It's a little bit more technical stuff. So, actually what you get from Atlassian is just this part. These are the application servers, which you deploy on your application machines. But you need also a load balancer before. This load balancer should be able to distribute the requests from the browsers to the different nodes, hopefully equally, so that you can distribute also the load. And if some of the nodes fails, the load balancer will detect it and will forward the queries to the living nodes. In order the whole solution to work, you need also a high available database, a central one for all the nodes, and also a shared storage where you put some files. It's different between the different products. It should be also high available. But we will see it concretely in the stage data center part. So, performance at scale. You see, for example, here one diagram produced by Atlassian Performance Labs, where they tested Jira with increasing amount of browsers and events and different amount of nodes. So you see that it's scaling more or less linearly. So with one node we have so many requests, and with two nodes almost double, and with four nodes about 3.5. Yeah? So actually no cluster scales completely linear because you have always some kind of coordination and so on. But this kind of scalability is normally a very good one. It's also similar for Stash, you'll see it also later. Yeah, and instant scalability. You see, when you monitor your cluster and see that you're already on a high load, on 90% or something, you can plan and you can say, okay, the load will increase because our users are very happy with the products and they use them more and more. And you can just plan to add nodes, and this will just seamlessly redistribute your load on the machines. So you get also, that's actually the only visible feature that you see as a user. This is this clustering console that comes into the administration console of all the free products. And you see there are the current nodes, their IP addresses, their node IDs, and a small button, but very important one. This is a wizard which will lead you, which will guide you through the process of adding a new node. And for such a complicated complex solution, it is pretty easy, I would say. So, now the bad news. The pricing is different for the data center edition. It is no more a permanent license with a renewal, but it's a subscription-based model. It's per year. It's flat price for all free offerings, $25,000 per year, per 1,000 users. After some very high amount of users, there will be some change and some flattening, but currently this is the price. It means basically $2 per user per year, per product. So this is the only disadvantage to say. But for example, for Stash, it's not such a big difference. We'll see it later. So the second big area of enterprise offerings are the services that Atlassian is offering. The first one, and probably the most important, is the Premier support. Then there is a new service called Technical Account Management, and of course the enterprise partners that you can actually, enterprise experts that you can contact, and they can support you in building this more or less complex solution. So, in the support offering, there are basically two different paths from Atlassian. The first one is the traditional one. It's a multi-level triage escalation process. So, the classical first level support, where you can create a ticket, it lands in the first level engineers. They will, if it's an easy issue, they will resolve it immediately. If not, they will escalate to the second, and then to the third, and at the end to the development team. It is bound to a particular product, actually to a particular SAN, something like system entitlement number or something. And that's it, yeah? In this kind of support, they don't differentiate if you have 20 products or one product or whatever. And the second path is the path for business critical applications, so tailored for enterprise customers. And this is on account level. This kind of add-on support you buy for the whole organization. It costs $35,000 per year, covers all the products that you have. It doesn't matter how many instances you have and how many users. It's just an add-on to the standard one. I don't know if you can read these numbers, but I can try to tell you the biggest differences. For example, the standard support and the cloud support, they have no phone support at all. The premium support have 24/7 phone support. It's for some customers very important. Then you have half of the response times. So for level 1 and 2 for level priority 1 tickets, you have normally 1 hour. Here you have 30 minutes and so on. So all these numbers are actually half. It supports all your products. So actually in the support internal history, they see immediately that which products you have. So they treat the customer like organization with some infrastructure, with some set of tools which work together and so on. So actually it should be, at least in theory, much more easier for them to resolve integration problems between your different tools. And you have some additional things like post-incident report requests, some onboarding at the beginning, and so on. And continuing with this idea, you have also the technical account manager. This is something like evangelist who is representing the interests of your organization to Atlassian. It's a named person that you hopefully not change with the time. You buy practically 1 day per week from him, and he'll come also to your premises, I think at least 1 per quarter, and you can discuss everything about Atlassian with him, about your visions, about your plans, about your problems, and so on. And he'll try to bring your requests and concerns to the Atlassian, even to the development teams. So basically that's your single point of contact, and it's something like your personal representative to the Atlassian side. So that was actually the overview of the high-level overview of the enterprise services. Now let's see one of the concrete offering, and this is the Stash Data Center. What is Stash? You have already seen and heard from Georg. It's an enterprise management software for Git. Git is getting more or less the standard, so sooner or later you need, even especially if you're a big company, you need some kind of management for, at least for permissions and so on. And Stash is actually one of the best on the market, and it is actually the only clustering solution. The price we see again is the subscription-based model, 24,000 per year per 1,000 developers. It's rather for big development companies. But the price from the normal edition is not so high. I think, if I remember correctly, it's 28,000 for the beginning for 1,000 users, and then 14,000 per year. So 24,000 per year is not so big difference. Why do you need data center? Data center from Stash. So this is the only, at least currently, the only known active clustering solution for Git. That means almost no downtimes, except upgrades and disaster recovery switches. So this is the case when the famous nuclear bomb hits the first data center and you have to continue to work on the other one. But unless these upgrades and disaster recovery switches, you should be always online. Why do you need it? Because developers are somehow expensive, and downtimes of Git could be also, especially for teams which are using agile technologies, or at least these workflows that you saw before from Georg, where there are many bots called continuous integration servers, which are building the software all the time, checking in some artifacts, building branches, merging them, and so on. If Git would be down, then the whole process will stop, or at least be extremely slow. For the guys of you who use agile development themselves, they know what happens when the builds are read for one day. Normally the productivity drops extremely on the next day, so you can also calculate that's a good business decision to have Git or your Git management software up all the time. And of course, scaling. Yeah? Git itself is extremely fast. Yeah? It's probably 10 to 100 times faster than the legacy systems like Subversion or even Perforce. It's much faster than them just by itself. But with data center, you can make it even more scalable. Yeah? So actually, if you are, if you have currently problems with performance problems with Subversion or Perforce or whatever, then you can know if we migrate to data center, to Stash data center, and configure it properly, then the performance problems will go away. These features are all valid for all three of them, yeah? For Stash, for Jira, and for Confluence. What are the target customers? Okay, obviously it must be at least a company with 1,000 developers or 1,000 persons who have access and work with the Git repository, that are rather big development houses. Again, very important for DevOps, agile development with much automation. Service providers with very high SLAs requirements. It's typical for some big companies which have a dedicated service provider. I know some. And of course, large Subversion and Perforce customers. What is the architecture of Git data center? So this is a basic overview of it. So you have the client network where the requests from the end users come. It can be SSH or HTTPS. And then you need first the load balancer. So if you have already some kind of hardware load balancer, like F5 or Cisco load director, you can just use it. Most of the hardware load balancers are capable of serving Stash. If you don't have any or don't want to use them, you can use them. You can build it yourself, or of course you can help you build it. You can use KeepAlive or HA proxy. Actually, HA proxy is the preferred solution from Atlassian. And then you have here your Stash instances. Normally they will run on some kind of virtualization, maybe VMware. So here you deploy your actually Tomcats. Of course, the Git software must be there. And there is additional open source software called Hazelcast. This is this is a clustering distributed in-memory cache with optional persistence of database. This is used for the whole cluster configuration and orchestration. And then you need databases. Shared database, high available to match the whole, the rest of the infrastructure. Supported are Oracle, MS SQL, and Postgres currently. MySQL is not supported. And for the shared file system, this is actually, in case of Stash, the most important. Here are the real repositories. The real Git repositories are on this shared file system. Actually, the only valuable solution is NFS, which you should also deploy in a available built-in manner. Either build it yourself with Linux, for example, or use some kind of appliance like NetApp Filer. So, the supported configuration, again, we have here an overview of them. For the operating system on data center, actually only Linux is supported. For server installations, you can also use MS Windows and also other operating systems. MS Windows is supported only under 500 users for performance reasons. For Linux, actually most of the flavors are supported. The major flavors like Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu long-term edition. I think also SUSE Enterprise is supported. For the file system, because you're using Linux, actually the only supported version is NFS, with some special settings and so on. And databases, the only real active solution is actually Oracle RAC. You don't have to use the very expensive Enterprise Edition. You can also use the Standard Edition, or you can use also Oracle, a cheaper version of Oracle, and build your cluster in another way. It sounds complicated, but we can support you on this. Anytime you need help, we can do it for you. So MS SQL is only an active-passive solution. Postgres and MySQL is supported for all server editions of Atlassian tools, but definitely not for data center. There are some known issues with deadlocks, and therefore they're not supported. Again, all these configurations are valid for Stash, Jira, and Confluence. And currently, all the other projects like Service Desk and Agile and so on, they are add-ons on top of this product, and they're also supported in the Data Center Edition. So, probably interesting, the load balancer, it must or it should support stickiness. If you want to have a good distributed load, it's a little bit more technical, but I hope for someone interesting. It must support this so-called stickiness. That means that the session of the user should stick in the normal case to a single node. So every request that comes from this user will be redirected always to the same node, unless it fails, and then it will be redirected to another one. It also works theoretically without stickiness, but then it has a very big performance impact. Important is, especially for Stash the Stash data center, that the load balancer will support both HTTPS and SSH. All the other products, they work only with HTTPS normally, but your Git developers will love you if you offer them the possibility to use SSH, because then they can use their keys and don't have to type their passwords and all this stuff. And for example, this SSH makes the very famous and favorite Apache AJP load balancer not sufficient for Stash. For the others, maybe yes. And most of the hardware load balancers are supported. If not, choose HA proxy and keep an ID. So here again about the performance. This is also a diagram produced by Atlassian Performance Labs with Stash. You see that it's scaling actually extremely good, actually better than expected, because I see that 2 nodes can handle more than twice as 1 node. I don't know the reason for it, but it's just a test that Atlassian did. So from scaling point of view, probably Stash is the best one from all 3, and is the only Git solution that can do this. Even the GitHub Enterprise cannot do it, although the price is much higher than Stash. So, currently, the most important features in the data center releases are the disaster recovery. I think until the start of this year, it was only available for a single data center. Now it's also available for Java Data Center. It's implemented like a replication, so this feature will just replicate continuously the content of the database to a second data center, and also the shared file system to a second data center. In Q2 or Q3, actually, we heard that Stash will be available in August with so-called mirroring feature, which will implement this disaster recovery. So after this release, Stash Data Center will be also available for 2 data centers and somehow seamlessly mirrored. So that was basically, in a glance, why I need Stash Data Center: because of downtimes and performance and scaling. How do they do it? With active clustering. First within one data center. Disaster recovery is coming very soon. It's a call standby solution. You need a shared database, a high available one, and a shared file system, also high available one. load balancer, sticky sessions. If it sounds very complicated, we are glad to help you anytime. The costs are flat to 24,000 per year per 1,000 developers, and the target customers are big development companies or companies with more than 1,000 developers, big installations of Subversion, Perforce, and service providers with restrictive SLAs.